Have you heard the chilling last message sent by the missing Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370? Brace yourself, because what you're about to hear will send shivers down your spine. At 1:19 a.m. on March 8, 2014, as the Boeing 777 was cruising at 34,000 feet above the Indian Ocean, somewhere over the Maldives, the pilot calmly contacted air traffic control. "Good night, Malaysian 370. Those were the final words transmitted by the missing plane before it vanished from radar, leaving behind a mystery that has baffled the world. This haunting transmission was picked up by two satellites. One was over the Bay of Bengal, near Indonesia. The other was between Malaysia and Thailand. But how did these satellites receive the message if the plane had no radar contact? This raises more questions than answers. Why didn't they shut off the transponders? Wouldn't this have made them invisible to civilian radar? How did the military radars see the blip of the plane when it was flying so low? And why did they not inform the public about the possible crash until 6 hours after it went missing? Or was it a deliberate attempt to hide the truth? As the sun rose on March 8, 2014, the world woke up to the chilling realization that Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, which had taken off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport at 12:41 a.m., destined for Beijing, had vanished without a trace. Despite extensive searches in the areas where it was believed to have gone down, no debris or wreckage of the plane has ever been found. The last confirmed radar contact with the aircraft was at 1:22 a.m. when it was over the South China Sea. The plane was expected to reach its cruising altitude of 35,000 feet, but at 1:30 a.m. it dropped to 29,000 feet, and then it kept going lower and lower. At 1:41 a.m., the plane turned off its transponder and went off course, heading northwest towards the Malacca Strait. This was unusual behavior. Was the crew trying to divert the plane away from prying eyes? Were they attempting to land the plane on a remote airstrip? What were they trying to hide? To understand what happened next, we need to rewind a bit. You see, most commercial planes travel along specific corridors called airway routes, which are like highways in the sky. These routes are designed to be the shortest and safest paths between two waypoints. But on this night, MH370 deviated from its course by making a right turn. And here's where things get even weirder. Normally, when a plane makes a right turn, it banks to the right. But according to satellite data, the plane did a left bank. Now, if the plane was trying to fly low and evade detection, this move might have helped them go undetected. But why would they do that unless they were being chased? Who could be chasing a commercial jetliner at 30,000 feet? Then, just as abruptly as it had disappeared from civilian radar, the plane reappeared on military radar. It was now much lower, cruising at just 23,000 feet over the Indian Ocean. But how did the plane drop 12,000 feet without anyone noticing? This is where the conspiracy theories start to take flight. Some believe that Captain Zahari Shah, who was known to be depressed, intentionally crashed the plane into the ocean, taking his own life and the lives of 227 innocent people. Others believe that the plane was hijacked by the pilot, First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid, who had a history of substance abuse and had been accused of smuggling drugs. Still others believe that there was a mechanical failure or a series of unfortunate events that caused the plane to spiral out of control. But what if there's something more sinister at play? A cover-up? What if the plane didn't crash into the ocean at all? What if it landed somewhere in a remote part of the world where nobody would find it? And if so, why are they doing that? Is there something on board that they don't want people to know about? Or are they hiding something else? One thing is clear: the official investigation has not provided any definitive answers. In fact, the longer this mystery continues, the more questions arise. For example, why did the plane lose 24,000 feet in less than 20 minutes? If the plane was descending due to a problem, why didn't the crew declare a mayday? And why did the plane disappear from secondary radar, which relies on signals from the plane's transponder, while remaining visible on primary radar, which detects the plane's actual physical presence? These questions have led to a plethora of conspiracy theories, ranging from the mundane to the outlandish. Some believe that the plane was shot down by a missile, while others believe it was taken down by a remote-controlled drone. Some believe that aliens have taken the plane to study its technology, while others believe it was never on a plane at all, but rather a sophisticated operation to steal the identities of the people on board. But one theory stands out more than the rest. What if the plane was never lost? What if it was intentionally diverted to a secret location where it has remained hidden all these years? And if so, why? Why would someone go through all the trouble to hide a plane? What are they hiding? In 2018, a piece of debris found on the shores of Reunion Island was confirmed to be from MH 370. This was a significant development because it provided the first tangible evidence that the plane had indeed crashed. However, some believe that this was a staged event, a deliberate attempt to throw off investigators and give the real story of MH370 more time to be erased. Imagine for a moment that MH370 landed safely in a remote part of the world, far away from prying eyes. This would mean that all those who were on board are still alive, living their lives in hiding. But why would they do that? What would be the reason for such a drastic change of plans? Well, it turns out that both pilots had been involved in some shady dealings in the months leading up to the flight. Captain Zahari Shah had been caught smuggling cigarettes and alcohol, while First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid had been accused of bringing drugs into the country. It seems that the pilots had something to hide, something that they were desperate to keep secret. And then there's the passenger manifest. There were a lot of interesting characters on board MH370. One was a young woman named Wan Junaday, who was traveling alone. She had booked the ticket using her brother's name, but she had given her own details when making the reservation. Then there was Michael Chlonka, an arms dealer who was known for dealing in dangerous weapons. He had reportedly traveled to Beijing to meet with a high-ranking Chinese official to discuss a lucrative deal. And let's not forget about Kim Jong-un's half-sister, Kim Yo-jong, who was traveling incognito under the alias Anna. She had reportedly gone to Beijing to negotiate a peace deal between North Korea and South Korea. It seems that the pilots may have had more on board than they were willing to admit. Perhaps they were transporting illegal substances or even human cargo. Maybe they were carrying out a secret mission for the government, or perhaps they were simply trying to make a quick buck by smuggling goods into China. Whatever the case may be, it seems that they had something to hide, something that they were willing to risk everything to keep secret. Why did they bother turning off their transponders? Wouldn't it be easier to stay on the radar and just not answer any calls? Unless they were worried about being tracked. Maybe they didn't want to be followed. Where did they think they could go that the authorities wouldn't find them? Where could they possibly hide a plane full of people? It turns out that they may have tried to pull off something similar before. In 2013, both pilots were involved in a near accident while landing in bad weather. They had been so focused on avoiding a collision that they had forgotten to engage the autopilot system, causing the plane to drop dangerously close to the ground. When the passengers complained, the pilots claimed that they had experienced technical difficulties, but the official investigation revealed that they had simply made a mistake. What if this wasn't an accident, though? What if it was a deliberate attempt to scare the passengers? After all, the pilots knew that the plane was fully under their control. They could have easily avoided the near collision, but they didn't. They chose to put the passengers' lives at risk. And that's not something that pilots do unless they're trying to cover up something. But what could they possibly be covering up? The answer, it seems, lies in the cargo hold. Could there have been something illegal or dangerous on board that the pilots were trying to hide? Was it drugs, weapons, or something even more sinister? We may never know for sure. The pilots may have thought that they could get away with it, that they could hide the truth forever. But they were wrong. The truth has a way of coming out, no matter how hard you try to bury it. And that's all the evidence we have in this case. So here's what I want you to do. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on the case. What do you think happened to MH370? Do you believe that it was a pilot suicide, a hijacking, mechanical failure? Or is there another explanation entirely? Who knows? You may just be the one to crack this case wide open. Now go watch Pilot Begged for Help Before Crash Landing Plane. Scary. Or check out this video instead.